Why is this a good opportunity for a retail SPAC right now?
Well, I mean, as my partner, Graham Clemson, would say, we're not here to do moonshots. That being said, we also aren't necessarily looking to do it as a retail SPAC, but more as a consumer-based SPAC, because one of the things that has been very clear in terms of what's happened during COVID is that those people who are not going to make it to the other side, those businesses and those brands that aren't, it's very clear they have the wrong model or the wrong connection with consumers, and those that are. Yet COVID also left many people looking for options to raise capital. And so in conjunction with MidOcean Partners, which is, perhaps the best middle market private equity firm out there, we've actually studied the space and said, how do we empower these management teams through the crisis on to the next step? And so hence, that's how we came up with the name Empower. And it goes beyond retail, because every brand today has to be a retailer in their own way.
And I know you've got Matt Shea from the National Retail Federation on your advisory board of Empower. So what opportunities or categories are interesting to you within consumer, which is obviously very broad?
Well, yeah, we've tried to narrow it down. Consumer, has grown over the past 5 years at, 4.5%, but there are sectors within that grow much faster. Let's go to beauty right away. So the beauty sector is something we're very, very excited about. I was president of the division of Revlon for a point in time. We also brought Pamela Baxter onto our executive board at MidOcean, who's out of Lauder and LVMH. So we've got views in there. But we also mix those talents with, board members like Mindy Grossman from WW, Weight Watchers, or Gina Bianchetti, who's over and created, Mighty Networks. And how do you bring those people forward in a very, very spectacular way? So we're focused into those things that are moving forward, all things measured, things that are good for you, food ingredients, the things that power up in what you're doing in food. So it's really more new consumer with a core into what has been.
What about any beaten down, cheap assets that might have been suffering, whether that's because of the shift to online that they might have been left behind on, or because of COVID? Would you be attracted to some of those assets if they were very cheap?
Well, Wilfred, it's a great question. And the answer is, if it doesn't truly have the unit economics and the consumer mindset that's going to take it forward, we'd rather let kind of go off to the nice graveyard, that's there in retail that you're seeing this past year. So we're not going to invest in what was. Our whole idea and our thesis is, because we have a view into things, that we can really pick out the winners of what will happen going forward. For instance, I'm the lead director on a company which is called the Joint Chiropractic. We went through the normal dip when we had to close, our clinics. In health and wellness, we're the leading provider in that category. And yet right now, as we publicly announced, we're back to double-digit increases in providing chiropractic care. There are other businesses out there that are like that. I also chair a company, KidCraft, which is a portfolio company of MidOcean's. Because of the home nesting and taking care of imaginative play with kids, KidCraft has exploded. Also, 75% of its business is done online. So these are the categories and the ways in which we're thinking about unlocking value, because a lot of people ran out of money during COVID, and we'll be able to bring that back and then move them forward with great management teams.
I know all about KidCraft. You need to buy toys if you can't send your kids to classes and playgroups.
The best babysitter out there.
Exactly. The SPAC craze, the gold rush. What is it about, and why is this a good vehicle for what you're trying to do here when you have access to private equity money?
Well, it's interesting. When Graham and I, who's my partner, when Graham and I went looking at this, we didn't just go jump into it like a lot of people have done and said, oh, free money, let's go do it. I'm an operator. So for me, it was all about the company we could help. And when we studied it, we saw that, if we brought great talent along that could unlock this. So if you look at our board, where we've got, Matt Maddox from Wynn, Mindy, as I mentioned, from WW, Jeff Johnson, Beth Kaplan, all the people from these different areas, we could actually come in and find the angles and the themes that would unlock, value and bring it forward. there are people who are activists who go into the SPAC business. Now, I don't understand that at all. Why would somebody want to become a partner with an activist? I mean, that's kind of a little bit nutty. That just means you didn't know what you were doing in the first place, and you need an activist to tell you to take you public. And the SPAC tool is a better tool to go public. I mean, you've heard people on your show and other shows talk about, bringing growth to the many. When I ran Payless, ours was about bringing footwear to the many, but with great style. And so there are ways that you can do that with the products that we're looking at and the categories that, we're looking at. I mean, I had a phone call this morning with a CEO of a large company that we'd like to look at. And he goes, I've gotten so many calls from SPAC people. At least now I got an operating person who I know and I trust. And now we've got a meeting with them next week. So to me, we're not just bankers, we're thinkers.
Keep us posted on that. Eager to see where you land. Matt Rubel, thank you very much for joining us from Empower.
Thank you very much, Sarah and Wilfred.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.